You got to give the man some props, Steve. Can you give him a little bit of props, please?
Listen, the 17 to 23, 201 yards in the second half. I mean, of course I'm going to give him props, but I saw a strip sack that he got away with. I saw an interception that was dropped.
Now you want to nitpick. Now you want to nitpick.
That's nitpicking? That's nitpicking?
Wait a minute, that's nitpicking.
That was dropped in the end zone. That's nitpicking?
What about those dimes that he was dropping out there where guys were dropping the passes? What about that?
They dropped at least 3 to 4 of his passes, which were dime pieces. It was right on the money. He deserves a lot of credit for that.
So why you gonna hate him? Why you hating on this man?
It should have been two turnovers and at least an interception. That if the New York Jets showed up and acted like a disciplined professional bunch, maybe we would be having a different conversation.
You know what? You're absolutely right about that. Because what I saw from the New York Jets was guys having these crazy penalties. I'm talking about unsportsmanlike, personal foul type penalties. That goes directly to Todd Bowles, don't you think?
I think it does.
It goes directly to Todd Bowles. You can't have those type of penalties.
I got to admit to you, Isaiah Crowell, acting like the football's toilet paper and getting an unsportsmanlike conduct, along with a couple of other things as well. I got to admit to you, Mike Vaccaro of the New York Post wrote a very interesting column today. I couldn't argue with him. If this type of stuff keeps up, I don't know if Todd Bowles is going to have his job at the end of the season. And I love Todd Bowles, but I'm worried about him after a loss like that, because there was no excuse to lose the game. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, listen, you go into the game and you bring in, obviously the Cleveland Browns brought in Baker Mayfield after Tyrod Taylor gets knocked out of the game. But my problem is, where were the adjustments? Where were the adjustments defensively to try to counteract what Baker Mayfield was doing? I mean, Baker Mayfield was out there like it was 7-on-7, just completing passes left and right. And you mean to tell me you had no answer for what this guy, a rookie with no preparation, was doing out there? I mean, you're a defensive-minded head coach. I expected more out of the Jets defense, particularly in the second half.
It was almost as if they did not expect to see Baker Mayfield at all. It's almost like they prepared for the game completely for Tyrod Taylor, who they just ambushed. I mean, they had 4 sacks against them, 10 quarterback hits. They were all over Tyrod Taylor, ultimately forcing him out of the game with 1:42 left in the first half, which brought Baker Mayfield in because of the concussion injury to Tyrod Taylor. But it was almost as if they didn't prepare. And the thing that bothers me about it is that if it's somebody, if you're going from Drew Brees or Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady to their backup quarterback, I can understand you preparing for them, but not preparing for the backup. But even without a concussion injury, it was plausible that if Tyrod Taylor was sticking up the joint, that the fans would have demanded and ultimately gotten Baker Mayfield into the lineup, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because if you look at the Cleveland Browns the first couple games, it wasn't like Tyrod Taylor was out there being Air Coryell, was just throwing all these touchdown passes out there. I thought coming into the game there was a possibility that he could get the hook for Baker Mayfield. And then we clearly saw in the first half that Tyrod Taylor was clearly stinking up the joint. Mm-hmm. So you, as a coach, you got to have in-game adjustments. You got to adjust accordingly, and they just didn't do it as far as the Jets defense is concerned.
Damien Woody right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Your thoughts about Sam Darnold's performance?
Rookie growing pains. 3 games in 11 days. That's a tall task for anybody. You think you got to go on a short week and prepare for, a Greg Williams defense that throws a lot of different looks at you. They got some dogs over there on that defense. Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward,
he's special.
Jamie Collins. They got a lot of guys that are some playmakers on that defense. You saw what they did last week down in New Orleans, and that's against Drew Brees. Yeah. So, for a 21-year-old quarterback to go against that Greg Williams defense, that's a tall order.
That's why it's bothering me, these comparisons. Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. We've seen why Baker Mayfield deserved to be number 1. Well, Baker Mayfield wasn't going up against a Greg Williams defense. He wasn't going up against it. Listen, Greg Williams might have been synonymous because he's associated with Bountygate, which obviously had a residual impact and a detrimental impact on the New Orleans Saints. We get all of that. But the flip side is he's universally recognized as one of the elite defensive coordinators. When you think about defensive coordinators in the National Football League, 2 of the names that come up, more so than almost anybody, is Wade Phillips, obviously, and you've got the situation with Greg Williams. So I think that's been underplayed to some degree. What about you?
No, I totally agree. Again, it goes back to you're talking about the youngest quarterback in modern era playing 3 games in 11 days, and now you got to prepare on a short week for a Greg Williams defense. That's a tall order. And by the way, it would help if some of the other skill position players would help out Sam Darnold.
Name names.
Listen, Enunwa balled out. There's no question. But Robbie Anderson, this is the second week
he
can't hold on the ball. He gets stripped and fumbled. Ward, Terrell Pryor. We need more out of him. Curse. We need more. I know he's coming back off an injury, but you talking about a 21-year-old quarterback. We need these guys. They need these guys to step up big time.
With Enunwa doing what he's doing, but Curse in the slot, I think you need to put Curse on the outside. Put somebody else in the slot because nobody else is getting open. Robbie Anderson, and I'm going to say this right now, and I said it earlier. They need to go out there. The New York Jets need to go out there and get somebody like Dez Bryant. They need to go out there and get him. Add somebody. Ooh. Well, here's why I'm saying that. Because of the lack of production you're getting from the other guys. If Robbie Anderson was playing better, could hold on to the football. If Enunwa was getting more help, then I would say no. But the fact that it's so glaring that the Jets need help, and on top of the fact that you got a young quarterback there that you're trying to help grow and what have you, you need to get him as much help as you can get him. And I would be in support of bringing Dez Bryant here to New York City, especially if he was willing to be a slot receiver.
That's a big one. Here's a question I would have. Do you want to have that man? Do you want him to enter your culture that you're trying to instill in your locker room?
Yes.
I think that to me that would be the biggest question that you have to ask if you're Todd Bowles.
I think the fact that he has so much to prove, I think that usurps any locker room concerns. Because Dez Bryant's going to walk in there, he's going to be looking the ball. Because he's going to be looking to validate what he believes of himself, combined with the fact that, he's very frustrated, got stuff to prove, combined with the fact that you don't really have any standout wideouts on the New York Jets.
Yeah, clearly guys weren't making plays last night. Again, I go back to you got a 21-year-old quarterback. You got to help the man out. No question.